So there are four most famous video games that kids are getting addicted to these days. The first one is called Roblox. And you need to know as a parent that children are exposed to more violence, blood, and when you increase, your rating increase. This is the most famous in our church, unfortunately. It's called Fortnite, or the Battle Royale. And what we all need to know, there is a lot of sudden death that happens in this game. And because of that, a lot of our children become very anxious, very sad. And also there is a lot of interaction with strangers because they are playing with outside people. And there is also a lot of credit card use to buy equipments and outfits. This game is called Overwatch. Parents should be aware of how players interact with each other. Although it appears as if it's a comic game, there is a lot of intense excitement than what is thought to be. The fourth most common addictive game is called Star Wars or Star Watch. And parents should be aware that although it looks like a space battle, however, there is a lot of looks like real injuries that happen in these games. And parents should be aware there is a lot of purchases that can occur in this game. USA Today put an exclusive stating that Fortnite survey are showing kids are playing in classrooms, and there is a high school YMCA survey that showed there is a lot of cutting of high school students of their classes because of this particular game, and their academic grade had fallen behind. This is the Battle Royale, or the Fortnite main action figure, and New York Times wrote about parenting should watch out for Fortnite addiction. They wrote in their article in New York Times, this is the most important journal of America, of course, giving the game's gripping power, young people may need help limiting their environment with it. So how should parents step in? Their answer: instead of being against playing, some adults position themselves as being for other important activities, such completing homework, being physically active, participating in family life, and getting sleep. CNN is considered the most liberal newscast in America, and in spite of that, they wrote, video games became an addiction. I was in Epiphany on the other church. That doesn't mean this church doesn't have this picture. But exactly at the time of communion, nothing less than that. Our best children are playing games. A psychologist who wrote a lot about this topic wrote, games play on very basic psychological principle of reward and punishment. For those who don't know, the games, when you achieve something, you get rewarded by points and credits, and you feel good, and you become an important player among 500 other players playing in the world. And that, of course, plays on the psychology of the high school teenager and gives him the excitement that he or she wants to play more and more, and they don't want to stop. And they invest more, and they experience rewards. This is an article of research article came in 2017 from the Entertainment Software Association. They put some statistics. 2/3 of American families having video games. 67%, at least they have one device. A lot of addiction around the age of 18. Among adolescents, the most people playing are between 12 and 17 years of age. Over half of the players, they report that they played with others. Over 10% of households in America have what we call a virtual aid, which is a thing you put in your face and you see 3D and you don't have to sit around holding a phone. 74% of virtual headsets owners use the device to play single-player video games. What our children and teenagers are supporting is a $11.7 billion industry, which if used in poor countries, there should be no poor in America and the whole world. There is even a Wikipedia page called Video Games Addiction. This is the important slide. The average length of time spent playing video games, according to one statistics, is 20 hours per week. 4% of those players were categorized as extreme users, which means they play 50 hours per week. And I want to warn parents and high school children and adults, young adults in college, that our church is seeing a lot of our best kids are playing these games. The reason is these games are not sexual. So they know they should avoid the pornography. And we taught them well to be pure. But unfortunately, the devil is playing with our heads. So our best kids are losing 4 and 5 hours per day and sometimes 12 hours in the weekend just to be sitting holding a laptop or an iPad. These are the reported emotional symptoms of video games addiction. The kids start to feel irritable. He can't sit because even if he's in class, he's thinking he needs to go home because there are other people are sending him, I got 100 rewards. So he's irritable. He can't sit still in church. He can't sit still in class. He cannot sit still having dinner. He's preoccupied with what happened the last time he played, and he's waiting to play again. He's lying to his friends and families because he said, no, I'm not playing. I'm not an addict. It's only half hour. He becomes isolated from the friends and becomes alone. This comes from the Institute of Addiction Recovery. There are also, the American Society of Adolescents wrote something called the physical symptoms of video games addiction. One, fatigue. They are sitting doing nothing, but they feel very tired because it's a lot of intense need of their emotional factors. Headaches, migraines, carpal tunnel syndrome. I know of a hand surgeon I work with. He told me he has not seen in the last 10 years arthritis in teenagers in the thumb, in the big finger, as much as he saw it in the last 10 years. He has never seen arthritis in children. He starts seeing because this finger is moving in a way God did not intend for it to move. Personal hygiene. They are not interested to go to the bathroom because they are so engrossed into the game. For the first time, psychiatrists added this as a disease now. It's called internet gaming disorder. In 2000, end of 17, beginning of 18, a teenager can go to a behavioral science doctor or a psychiatrist, say, I am an addict, doctor, to an internet gaming. And now it's added to what we call a statistical manual of mental disorders. I hope I am scaring everyone in this church enough that this is a real issue for the fathers and the leaders of the church to probably, in some of your minds, waste the 15 minutes in liturgy to spend time in this, because our best kids are falling to be addicts into this. New York Times is the most important journal in America, and they have an article called Video Games and the Depressed Teenager. This is an important study done by the American Society of Pediatrics. They did a 2-year study survey of over 3,000 children in teenage between 7th grade and 11th grade. And the average amount of time played was 20.5 hours per week. The number of symptoms reported are correlated to the number of hours playing, meaning the more time you play, the more fatigued you are. The more time you play, the more depressed you are. 2 years later, after they surveyed the kids year 0, and then 2 years later, they found most of these kids suffer from depression, social phobias, خايفين من المجتمع, and anxiety. Those who played the games. In the same study, heavy gamers, those who played 50 hours per week or more, and then stopped, they have fewer symptoms, meaning this is an addiction that if you stop, you are completely cured. This is a British medical journal of psychiatry. This is the Brits have published a similar study, similar to the Americans. So this is from UK and published in 2012. They surveyed over 700 online gamers aged between 16 to 18, and they found a strong correlation between the online games and depression, and the time spent and depression. The increased playing increased negative consequences, and the prevalence of suicide ideation and anxiety, obsessive compulsive neurosis, and many other bad psychiatric diseases. New York Post in 2016, in August, published, "It's a digital heroin, how screens turn kids into psychotic junkies." A doctor in UCLA in California, his name is Peter Wybrow, he's the director of the neuroscience division there. He wrote how digital heroin, or called it electronic cocaine. And I want you, all my teenagers, young adults, and even parents, watch for this slide. Because this doctor was able to correlate why this is an addictive. So he basically showed that iPads, smartphones, Xboxes are a form of a digital drug. Then what he did is he did MRIs of the kids, of the brain of the players, before and after immediately playing. And he found there are certain areas in the brain when they are very excited playing are lighting up, and those areas are the same areas are lit up when you take heroin. So he proved that the areas in the brain that are hooking a person to heroin are the same areas gets light up with pornography and game playing. I'll repeat the last one. I'm saying when you are getting excited, you secrete a medication or a hormone called dopamine. This dopamine can be excreted when you watch anything excitable, whether sexual or aggressive. This doctor made a scan of the brain, a brain scan called MRI, and before and after playing, and he showed that certain areas in the frontal cortex, right here, which are responsible for our behavior, are lighting up in the scan in those who are playing and engrossed in the playing. And when he took a similar study for those who sniff bad things like heroin, he found that the same areas that was lit up in the heroin addicts are lighting up in our young people who are using these games. There is a new book called Glow Kids, a very interesting, I didn't read the whole book, but very interesting book written by a guy, his name is Nicholas Kadaras. And basically the title of the book, How Screen Addiction is Hijacking Our Kids and How to Break the Trance. I hope we are listening, everybody, thank you. I'm almost done. There is a professor of psychology in Iowa University. His name is Dr. Gentile. He published a study of the increased depression among teenagers. Guys, teenage should never be depressed. Adults may be getting depressed. No one, a child or a young man, why should they get depressed? They don't have any worry in the world. They are getting depressed. Because they experience problems while playing, and they lose their main player, and they lose somebody they love in the game, and they get so upset if they are defeated. He says that parents, and please watch out, the coming 5 lines. Parents should regulate their children's use of video games and trust their instincts on what constitutes excessive use. So, as a church servant, I may tell you you can leave him to play. You as a parent know better than me. If you think your child should not watch except in weekends, then that's your home. You are responsible. After all, as a parent, you are responsible. And our children are the best kids I have seen in any church. And when they hear what I'm talking about, they themselves have a lot better things they can do with their time. Have you heard of Steve Jobs? If you haven't, then you missed a lot. This is the most important billionaire in the world. This is the one who invented this and any Apple device in your pocket today. His picture you can see. Steve Jobs, New York Times did an article about him before he died. The article states, Steve Jobs is a low-tech parent. So the interviewer asked him, your kids must love iPad, I asked Mr. Jobs. Trying to change the subject, the company's first tablet was just hitting the shelves. This is when iPad was just coming. He answered, and please parents watch his answer. This is Steve Jobs, the one who owns the company of Apple. They have not used it. We limit our technology that our kids use at home. So if you as a parent compare yourself to Steve Jobs, and right away you should learn what we should do. No iPads, no phones while you are eating. No iPads, iPhones when we have to talk to each other. Because otherwise we're losing, and parents should start with themselves first. You cannot tell your child, بطل يا حبيبي, وأنا I'm doing this in front of the treatment. I'm done. Prevent your young kids, اللي هم لسه ما ابتدوش, 4, 5, and 8 years old, from getting hooked to the screens. Which means you want to give them something instead. Give them something instead of the screen. Give them Legos instead of Battle Royale. Give them books instead of iPads. Give them sports instead of TV. Join the gym, you and them. But don't let them be hooked. You must have an honest discussion with your child about what are the limits of your own home, of how much the screen should be used. Limit the number of hours you can allow your children to use iPad to 2-3 hours per week, not 20 and 50 hours per week. Make your teens participate in sports or other activities. Eat dinner with them without electronic devices. Remember, Steve Jobs used to have tech-free dinners with his children. Recently, I started working with one of the best high school girls in making a choir team. And you may have seen one of their songs came on YouTube. But I was worried about them because they start to feel good about themselves. And so I made an agreement with them. They signed and I signed. And the agreement, I wish that you guys may like to use it in your own homes. This is similar to the agreement. So I changed the agreement here to apply to technology. It starts by this. Guys, girls, and boys, This is an idea that you can make an agreement with your parents. Start by saying, my parents will allow me to have an access to the computer, tablet, Wi-Fi, cell phone, Wi-Fi. I understand this is a privilege. This is a privilege and not a right. Rules. Thank you. The purpose of house rules. I understand that even though my parents can be tough, they love me more than anything in the world. I understand that these rules are not a form of punishment. I'm talking to my children today, now. Instead, my parents care about me so much that they created these rules for me to become an awesome and respectable adult. You initial here. Mutual respect. I promise to treat my family with respect. This means no yelling, swearing, or saying anything to them that I wouldn't want to be on YouTube. Even when we are upset, mad, having a heated argument, I will not fight with each other. Initial here. Technology. Technology is an incredible tool that helps me learn about the world and connect with my friends. I understand my behavior on these devices can directly impact my reputation and my future. I promise that I will use the technology responsibly. In our family, that means I am suggesting to you, not go to bad sites. I will limit my video games to 2 hours on Saturday. Lastly, I will exercise intentional restraint and not let technology interfere with my relationships or obligations. You, as a teenager, you initial here. What happens if you break the agreement? I understand that if I choose to disregard the above rules, there will be consequences. It's not because my parents are difficult, but because they want to help me become a respectable adult. The first time I break the house rule, I will lose the privilege. Again, I'm leaving this for you to do it, but I'm suggesting you lose the iPhone or iPad for 1 week or until my grades go above 3.7. What if I break the same rules twice? Or I break 2 rules, I will lose the privilege of or until when? I'm suggesting using the phone or iPad, you will lose the privilege of using them for 2 weeks or until my grades go up to 3.7. What if I break the same house rule a third time? I will lose all privileges or until again it's up to the parent and the child, suggesting using the phone or iPad for 3 successive weeks or until my grades to above 3.7. If I break the same rule a 4th time, or if the action is unlawful, I went to a very criminal site. Because of the severity and the potential of harm, I will seek help of a church father or a church mentor. I have read this document and agreed to the above rules and consequences. I know that my parents created these rules out of love. I understand that if I have any question, I should talk to them. Teen signature and both parents, because we don't want a teenager to play one parent for the other. Both parents must sign. I'm done, but I want you to know this is not happening because our kids are bad. This is happening because our kids are good, and they are not going to the worst sites that we all know what are they. But that doesn't mean we should leave their brains, eyes, body to be spoiled, taken away by this. I know college kids are hooked, teenagers hooked, children now are hooked. And the church leaders found that this is an important topic for parents and children to learn about it. Please watch out. I think 2-3 hours per week is enough. The rest should be sports, reading, playing together, spending time in a family. Glory be to God forever. Amen.